So the good news is that I've created a Prezi that kind of goes along with this. I'm not going to go through it today because that's just silly. You guys are all here to sort of be hands-on. But just in case you missed something, you can always go back, and I'm going to put it up on Blackboard today. So you can always go back and check. Hey. And check it out in case you missed something. But for now, we can just follow along, and please feel free to ask any questions or ask me to slow down or anything like that. Totally do that. So what you do is it starts out really easy. You go to Prezi.com, and to sign up, you click these large buttons all over the page that say sign up. There also is an option for signing up through Facebook. If you have a Facebook account.
Let's get this.
No, I think you should hear.
What?
Okay.
Okay, good.
So if you sign up through Facebook, what that means is that basically you can, if you're signed up on Facebook on your computer at that time, it'll just take all of your login information from Facebook and use it to sign up with Prezi. It's good because you can meet up with all of your other friends who have signed up on Prezi, and you can share Prezis that way. It's maybe not so good because sometimes, like, Prezi might post something on your wall and, or something like that. So there's pros and cons to it, but otherwise it's pretty easy to sign up. They'll just ask you for an email address. Right now I'm just going to log in because we already have one. So basically, when you log in, when you start out, all of your Prezi, this will be blank because you won't have created any Prezis yet. And what you can do is you'll just click this button here and to start a new Prezi. These buttons down here, basically, if you ever start sharing Prezis with people, which means that if you have someone else who has a Prezi account, you can start editing a Prezi together, and they can have access to it, similar to Dropbox or Google Drive, something like that. So that's when you'll start using these buttons down here. But otherwise, you'll just click this. So also, before we continue, just so you guys know, to sign up for the basic version is free. But you can upgrade to two more different versions. There's like a middle version and then a pro version. I think I looked up the prices for that, and it's I guess $4.92 for the middle version a month, and $13.25 a month for the pro version. But students and teachers have special discounts, so I don't know if any of you guys can fall into that category. But I think the only real thing that you get in the upper two versions is that your Prezis aren't shared. In the free version, all of your Prezis will be available to anybody who wants them on the internet. And when you buy it, then you don't have to share them with anybody else. And they also give you some drive space, a lot more drive space. And like one random thing is that you can replace the Prezi icon with your own icon. So if you were doing it for a business or something, you would put your own icon there instead of Prezis. So anyway, what will start out when you click on a new Prezi is you'll get a lot of options for templates. And they've got quite a few. They're all sort of like metaphors for maybe a message that you'd be trying to get across in a presentation. You'll notice that some of them have these little 3D labels down there, and what that means is that those particular ones have a little bit more of a three-dimensional feel to it. So when you zoom in and zoom out, the person will be a little bit more like, whoa, a little bit more of that kind of an effect. You can also create your own 3D template if you have a picture that's more than 3,000 pixels across. You can use that as the background to a template for a 3D model, which is pretty neat. I've done that once before with a skyscape of New York City. And there are most of the pictures you're going to find on the internet are not 3,000 pixels across because it's quite a large file. So it might be something that you would get from a camera that you took on your own. But there are some, if you search like 3,000 pixels, you'll find a few pictures on the internet. But But anyway, for our presentation today, let's just pick a pretty basic one. I'm going to pick actually just the first one, which is a blank one. It just starts out with one frame, which is a circle. Yes?
Am I in your way? I didn't realize you were looking at something over there.
No, I can see. I just want you to know that the camera might pick up your voice a little bit stronger than others because you're right next to it. But otherwise, it's fine. Okay, so this one is very, very simple. It starts out with absolutely only just one slide. And so you're going to have to add a lot to it, which is totally fine. If you're starting out new, you might want to have a template that has a little bit more slides involved. But for our purposes, we're just going to be adding a bunch of things. I'm going to show you how this works. Very, very basic. If you want to zoom into your Prezi or zoom out, you're just going to use the little part of your mouse right here. As you can see, I can zoom all the way out and all the way in. And the interesting thing about Prezi is that it's pretty much an infinite canvas. I could literally like create a slide like right in the little nook of this K right here and keep going all the way in, and that's what makes this such a dynamic tool to use. I think there is some limit, but it's supposed to be kind of limitless.
So what you're doing is you're rolling.
I'm just rolling this back and forth.
If you don't have that, then...
If you don't, then you can go to the right side of the screen here, and there's a plus and a minus. It's just not as sort of nice to do it that way, but there is that option as well. I was having a hard time at home because I was doing this, and I have just like a mouse pad. And I actually ended up, because I do have a portable mouse, and I got that out because it was much nicer to have the little zoom right here. So to start out, what you're going to do is you're going to start wanting to add things to this. You're going to want to add maybe text. It says right here, click to add text, and that's exactly right. You're just going to click once anywhere on the screen, and you can add text. This little menu that pops up gives you 3 different options for what your text will look like. So you can have a title text, and that's sort of like a little bit bold, and then a subtitle one, and a body. And you're probably going to wonder, like, can I change this look? And the answer to that is yes, you can, but you can only have 3 options. So you can change those 3 options, but you can't have more than 3 options. This little button right here makes the text bigger or smaller. You can change the color of the text, but just basic colors. And then if you push this little arrow to the right, you can add things like bullet points. You can center the text or align it to the right side of the screen versus the left side. This creates indents for your text if you wanted to have sort of like that kind of a paragraph format. And so they've got some basic things that are just right up here on the menu.
Now I know I've set those 3 types in default, so you can go to a place and you can say I want my title to be red, bold, I want my subtitle to be italic, and this size, and then it's that throughout. I mean, whenever you set one of them, it seems to be that's all your option is those 3. But then if you don't set the default, the first time you use it sets it for the rest? Is that it?
Right, so what I can do is I can show you, if you hit up here, there's this little button that says template. If you hit this, there are multiple options for themes on this part of the menu. And what that does is it changes the colors and the fonts for the whole thing. And they have these things that are sort of like I don't know, some of them are kind of funky looking. And let's say you find one like, okay, this one's kind of good. That will kind of work for what I want, but I don't like this particular font in here. You can go down here and there's a little button that says Customize Current Theme. And if you click that, you get to this menu that's called the Theme Wizard. And it allows you to do a lot of I think it took me a little while to find this, so I kind of see it's like a secret.
That's what I use.
Yeah. This first part of the menu allows you to change the color of the background. So right now we just have a white plain background. You can click on a color here and make the whole background a different color. I sort of recommend sticking with white unless you really have a desire to create a different color. I feel like I don't know, it's very hard for everything to stick out otherwise. But you'd have to be, I think it would be a very like intense decision to make to have a background that's a different color. But anyway, the other thing you can do is you can add a 3D background of your own photo. This is how you would do that. You would click here, and it would basically just take you to something that you could upload from your computer, a photo. And if you have an upgraded version, which we do, which is why it's allowing us to do this right now, you can upload your own logo to put on the Prezi versus the Prezi's logo. The next part of this, if you click down here at the next button, it will allow you to change the fonts of the different titles and bodies. So the 3 texts that you're allowed is Title 1, Title 2, and Body. And if you wanted, like, let's say, everything is good about this, and this is the example right here. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. This whole thing is what your Prezi will look like. So everything was good except for, I don't like this particular font, then you would click this and you'd have a lot of different choices to choose from. You can also change the color that it would come out with automatically by clicking one of these buttons. And then the last part of the menu, you can change the colors of your frames, and we'll go over what all of these mean if you're confused right now. But you can change the color of the frames and also your arrows and lines, and you have a highlighter marker to highlight things with, and you can change that color. Those usually don't have too many options because you want them to be really light to highlight things. But I usually always just go with yellow for my highlighter marker. It makes the most sense. So when you're done, this I'm going to just show you this. You probably won't use this. I hardly ever use this. If you want a very particular color, if you're trying to match like a logo or something, this is what the advanced menu is for. Just so you know that it's there, this is how you would do it. And you could change some of these numbers and it will like just ever so slightly change the exact color that you want to match to. But I hardly would ever use this. So you just click done when you're finished with that, and I'm just going to type in some words here so you can see what this would look like. And then you can click again down here and bring up another text box. What I recommend with this is when I started out making Prezis, I would make my text boxes huge, and I would put all my texts in one box. What I recommend is I almost put every sentence in a different text box, and what that allows you to do is move each sentence around the page by itself. Also, if you're interested in creating a presentation where each sentence will light up separately as the slide moves on, that you can only do that if you create separate text boxes. So I recommend making as many text boxes as you can. And I'm just showing you the 3 sort of types of font that we have here. And that's basically how you use type. You can just click and drag to drag the type wherever you want. As you can see, as I said before, you can move it all around the page. If you said, oh, this is too small, if you click on it once, okay, what ends up happening is there's a box that goes around it like this. Each of these little squares in the corner, you can click and drag to make it bigger or smaller. There also, if you get really close to it, a little circle will appear right down here. If you click and drag on this little circle, you can rotate it. Okay.
How do you get the little circle?
You just push your mouse over into that corner. Actually, any corner, it will pop up. Another way to make it bigger or smaller is to click on these pluses or minus buttons. And if you decide you want to change the words inside, you just hit this edit text and it'll go back to where it was before. So it's really pretty intuitive. And once you learn the basics of how to deal with a box like this is pretty much how to do everything. Because if I click, for example, on this frame, what you'll see, what you'll see is the exact same box shows up there, and I can make this whole box bigger or smaller. And what you'll notice is that when I made this box bigger or smaller, the words got bigger or smaller with it. When something is inside of a frame, it will get bigger or smaller with the frame. So if I didn't want this word to get bigger, I just wanted the frame to get bigger, I'd have to actually remove all of these things from that frame first. and then click on this to make it bigger, and then put them back in with this. All right. When I click on a frame, so what frames are basically things that will create an area that you're focusing on, and in most cases they will become your slides. If you're familiar with PowerPoint, that's kind of like what your specific slide is. If you wanted to change it, you can just hit up this menu right at the top here once your frame is clicked, and you can change it to a bracket. You can change it to a rectangle, which is kind of a weird thing because it's like this. They're always like these faded colors, the rectangles for some reason. And you can also change it to a hidden one, which basically means that the viewer won't be able to see it, but you can designate it as a frame so that your presentation will zoom to that area. I actually end up using these invisible ones quite a lot. And then if you decided that you didn't want that frame at all, you can also just remove the frame, and what that will do is it will remove the frame without removing anything inside of it, which is important because if I just clicked on it and hit the delete button, it would delete everything that's inside of the frame. So if you want to just delete the frame without deleting anything inside it, you have to use that part of the menu.
Can you just show me that again?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so if you hit the delete button, it will delete everything inside of the frame. If you go down here, there's a little button that says remove frame. If you hit that, it will remove the frame without removing the things inside of it. Yes.
So just because we haven't talked about paths yet, so when you're thinking about frames, like you might remove the frame because you want to put this in a different frame, but thinking about all your content as being framed so that it can be a slide in your presentation, so you wouldn't just leave the stuff here because as you can see on the side, there's
no frames.
You need a frame basically to have a slide because that's how you follow the path through, but you might remove it, for example, to move it into a different frame. This is just for explanation, as you would just leave it on a blank canvas necessarily.
Yeah.
Can't you, when you do the path, eventually when you get to that, can't you, like, you have this is great outside of the frame.
Yeah.
Couldn't you set like the second path when we get to that as this is great and
You
it would
could.
be outside the frame and it would turn into a slide?
Most people use frames as the way to go through a path, but you can basically use anything you want in a Prezi to be something that your slide becomes. So for example, see this edit path button right here on the left side of the screen? When you click that, you're no longer editing the Prezi, you're just editing the path that your presentation is going to take. And when I click on something now, for example, the circle, that will become a slide in my presentation, okay? What we were talking about before is now that the frame is my slide, I could also create this as my slide. This is great, off to the side. It doesn't necessarily have to be a frame, okay? And did you have a question, Holly?
Yeah, I want to back up for a minute. How
Sure.
did you, so you've got, I understand you've got a box around the circle and you can negotiate the size of that box.
Yeah.
What I don't get is how you got the, how you got the box.
I just clicked, I have to get out of edit path
Okay.
through this first, but I just clicked on the circle,
Okay.
and that creates a box.
Oh, you just click on it?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Got it.
Sure. So, so far we've got frames and we've got text. There are some other things that you can add. I'm going to just keep with this specific menu on the left here. You can draw an arrow, which I found as very
And
useful.
related to Holly's question,
Sure.
just show how you can create another frame. Because
Sure.
we were given that one to begin with, but you can create your own frame.
Let's say I wanted to build another area down here. All right, and I'm going to write
How many frames in there?
top.
Yeah.
And I'm going to edit path, and I'm going to click on this one, and it's going to be entered into my path. And so right now I have 3 slides, and you can see I wrote this as my second slide, and it popped up as my third slide. What I can do to correct that is just click and drag it and move it into the second position. And now that we have 3 slides, you can kind of see you can kind of check up on this Prezi and make sure that it's what you want it to be doing. You can click this present button at any time. And what that will do is that'll start your presentation from the beginning. I'm going to allow it to use my keyboard. And then I can just press the right button and I can just see how this is working. This is my second slide. This is my third slide. And then to get out of this, I just press escape and it goes right back to where we were before. Okay. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Have you any questions about this so far? So now what we can do is we can add a couple other things. I have arrows that we can add. And arrows are really great. So when I have like a piece of text and then there's something like maybe in an image that the text is talking about, I can use the arrow to point at that. So I just click once and that arrow has a base, and as you can see, and then I can click twice and it sort of ends the arrow by clicking it again, right? When the arrow is selected, which it is right now, it has 3 squares on it. The ones at each of the end make the arrow longer or shorter if I click and drag on it. The one in the middle allows you to put bend in the arrow. All right, and you just click and drag the middle one like that. This little menu right here, the first things will make the arrow a lot thinner, like this.
I bought moving the arrow around after putting it, creating it.
Okay. So after you've created the arrow, there are 3 boxes, and on the left or the right, if you click and drag it, it'll make it longer or shorter.
Okay.
Okay. So to make the arrow thinner, you click this button, and you can see it doesn't go any thinner than this, but if you wanted it to go thinner, all you have to do is zoom in, and then you can click the thinner button again, and it'll make it thinner.
Zoom in.
Yeah. And it's just saying that, at this length, you probably don't want it much thinner because the person's not going to understand what it is. But you can always make it thinner, and you can always make it thicker as well. All right. You can also change the color. They give you a few options for colors there. And then the last option is just to delete it. So, and you can also just click on any part of the arrow like this and move it around like this as well. There are other options for lines, which are exactly the same as arrows, only they don't have a point at the end of them, but they work exactly the same way. And those are good to make connections, or even if you wanted to create like an arrow that's like this, you can just make 2 lines and then an arrow at the end. That's what I use the line for. And the last thing on this menu is a highlighter, and that's basically you click once and hold it down, and you just highlight anything like this. And once you're finished highlighting, it becomes like an image or a frame, and you can move it around like this. You can make it bigger or smaller, and you can even rotate it the exact same way that you would a frame. What I use specifically highlights for is later I'll go about showing you how to make things appear and appear during a slide. So even though this, for example, is here right now, the person's not going to see it until the slide comes into view. So for example, I'm going to go to Edit Path, and I see what's going on. This is really important. I can't do it with this highlight because it's too big. It sticks outside of the slide. You can't manipulate something that sticks outside of the slide, so what I just did was I zoomed out and I created a new one. And I can just delete this one now. So now I'm kind of outside of the slide. It's still sticking outside of the slide. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little star right here. Okay, this little star, it'll do is it'll apply a fade effect to the highlight. Okay? And so I just clicked on that, and what that means the slide will look like is this. And then the highlight will appear during the slide. So that's just an example of what I like to do, that to bring the audience's focus to that specific area. Okay.
So what you did is you clicked over there on the star?
I clicked, you have to be in edit path to do this.
Yeah.
And then usually each slide has a little star next to it. If it doesn't, it means that there are no elements that you can apply the faded effect to. But you just click that star, and you can click on anything inside of that slide to give that fade effect to. And then what will happen is while your slide is playing, it will fade in to the slide.
So how did you do the fade effect? I'm sorry, I was just writing notes.
Yeah, I'll just do it one more time. It's you click on the star, and then you can click on any element that's inside the slide. Right now there's only one element here, it's just this text box. And you click on that. If there were more than one element, I could click on this one, and then this one, and this one, and you can see each little star has a number next to it, and it would say 1, 2, 3, and what would happen was this one would fade in first, this one would fade in second, and that one would fade in third. So I'm going to get out of edit path, and now now you've got the basics: frames, texts, arrows, lines, highlights. The next menu that I'm going to use up here is insert. If you go to this middle menu, the first thing on the menu is an image. Prezi offers you two options for images. One is you can search for an image on your computer that you have in your own database, or you can search Google Images for an image. So for example, if I was going to type in sunset, this is what exactly the images that would pop up on Google Images. And you could just go through them by clicking the down arrow, like this, until you find one that you like. I just want to warn you guys that sometimes they'll have like a big X through them. That would mean that it's like copyrighted and you can't use it. And so, but a lot of these look like they don't.
But didn't they have an option that said that you could select only ones that are available when you first inserted it?
Yeah, but they'll still show you that the image is there, like it's in this menu, but you won't be able to select it. So anyway, if this was the one that I wanted, I would click insert, and it'll load it up, and voila, your image is in your
Then if you want to move it around or make it smaller or larger.
Exactly. So that works pretty much exactly the same way as a frame does or an arrow. You click on it to move it, and click and drag. If you click on it once, like this, it will have those little squares around it, and you can click and drag those squares to make it smaller, to make it bigger. The little circle will rotate it. Also, if you wanted to crop this image, you hit that button up top. Did everyone see that?
No, that's a great option.
You just hit right here. There's this little
Oh, yeah.
button that says crop image. And then what you can do is you can take whatever part of the image you want, and then when you're finished cropping, you just hit the outside of that, and it takes away the rest. The other really awesome thing about this is if you by accidentally cropped too much, you can click on it again and hit crop image, and the rest of it comes back. So you can go back like this and get more of it. So I bet you're wondering, why would I ever want to rotate something unless it was upside down? So the funny thing about this is that the cool thing about Prezi is, like, let's say I put it on its side like this, and I created, I'm going to hit edit path, and I'm going to go to like this. What that will do is when I go to that slide, it will rotate the whole screen to however that photo is, which creates kind of a little bit of a dynamic effect. If you were presenting it, you could go all over the board. You could go upside down, you could go any way you like. Just be careful you don't make your audience seasick, because you can do that. But anyway, that would be maybe one of the reasons why you would want to make it sideways.
Another thing that can happen to make people seasick is if you have one image that's really small, and then you go, and then you go to another one that's like,
That's
distance
really
away. You
huge.
can like it. Sometimes you go like this,
In
so
and
that
out,
also,
yeah. So it can be cool, and I guess it depends on what audience you're looking to go towards, but it can also be a little bit sickening as well. So be careful with that, but it is something that you can do. I'm just going to use one more. If I went to my computer, just so you would know what that would look like, this menu would just pop up and you can pick an image from anywhere you want on your computer, just so you know what that looks like. The next thing down is symbols and shapes. For a long time, I totally ignored this menu, but it can be quite useful. They have a number of basically images on file that might be useful to you that you can use. One of which is the Prezi icon, or Facebook or Twitter. But there's especially useful like the little thought bubbles or speak bubbles. I've also used these shapes quite a lot, just as frames, because I don't specifically like the rectangle frame look, so I just pick one of these ones instead, and they work out pretty well. I'm just going to click on one of these to show you that what you can do is, let's say I wanted to put this frame around this word, and it'll pop up above that word, and you're like, well, that's no good. I want the words to be above that. If you right-click on it, there'll be these things in the menu that say bring forward, bring to front, send backward, send to back. And you can send it backwards once, and then voila, it's inside your frame. And now when you move this one around, obviously the words will be in there as well.
Can you do the same with the regular frames? Can you right click and then it would go front and back?
I believe so, but I think normally the frame, because they're frames, they will automatically show up as the total back, totally the background. But actually, let me try that. Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
But I think that frames are automatically suited to like go to the back, whereas these things will automatically come to the front, so you have to adjust those. And what I've done sometimes is by accidentally sent it all the way back, and it totally disappears. And what it did, it went behind the frame. So you can just click this undo button up here, and it undoes the last thing that you did. So this is the same as Word. Okay. So the next thing is a diagram. And these are similar to what you would find in the templates, but you can just add them to a part of your Prezi. Diagrams will show up in the menu. They look kind of like this. So as you can see, there's sort of ways to help you organize your Prezi.
Where are they under home version?
They're in this little insert file, and then it's the third one down, diagram. If you were to click on one of these, like let's say this one here, and choose it, it'll show up in your Prezi and you can move it to wherever you want. And basically it's just a bunch of different shapes all together, already pre-placed for you. It's 4 frames and some lines attached to each other. You could create it yourself, but it's already created in this. And you can, as you can see, they already place these specific squares in frames for you. So just be aware that that happens. But it's a pretty useful.
Is it flexible? Like if I decide I really don't need that third box, can I get rid of it and move lines over?
Move it around, or you can even just delete it. So you can manipulate it that way as well. Yeah. Yes.
So I wasn't watching how you got those numbers to appear.
The little gray circles, they appear automatically when you insert a diagram.
Oh, okay.
And so if you didn't want this to be a slide, you could just go to Edit Path and you can just delete whichever one you didn't want to be a slide.
Would you want them as one slide?
If you wanted them as one slide, and the 5th, I think that one is that, you just delete the rest of them. Right, so the next thing that you can add is a YouTube video, which are really great for presentations. I think the one thing that Prezi has over PowerPoint is that you can actually put the video like straight into the Prezi and play it in the Prezi. A lot of times in PowerPoint they'll have the link, and then you click on the link and you'll have to go into the internet and watch it and then go back to your PowerPoint. this, you can just play the YouTube video right in there. So very simply, you just copy and paste. I have a Michael Bublé sings in the subway here, and I just copy this, Control C, go back to my Prezi, paste it, Control V, and press the insert button, and the whole video pops up here. You can manipulate it exactly the same way as an image, making it bigger, making it smaller, holding it down and moving it around. You can even rotate it and play it on the side. So that's
How
pretty
would you, let's say you wanted, you have something hidden in the back of something else.
Yeah.
You can't really set a path for that thing, right? Because you can't click on it. Or can you
Hidden
know
behind it.
You know, if you didn't want to see this picture here, one thing you could do is the trick you had with having it fade out until you need it.
Yeah.
But if I didn't want to see this, I was thinking I might hide it behind the frame. But
I don't know if you could hide it behind a frame because the frame would continue to cover it, but what
Yeah.
you could do is just like stick it all the way in a corner or make it really, really tiny.
So that's what I've done. I made it tiny. I made it within a word, and then what you do is you don't know it's there, and then you
Yeah.
zoom in and then out again.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's right hidden that way. But I just wondered if you could hide it otherwise.
I think if you put it, like if you, what she's asking is if you put it like underneath something, I think that would mess it up because you wouldn't,
Yeah.
I think it would just show, it would show the movie, but something would be on top of it blocking it. So the neat thing about this is when you're finished with it and you click outside of it, then it becomes a movie that you just hit this play button and the movie should start playing.
Now, have you ever had the problem where I have one Prezi where there's one video that automatically comes on right at the beginning when I come to it, but I have another one that you have to click before it will. Do you
It
know
depends
why
on
that
what
is?
presentation mode you're in.
Uh-huh.
So if you're on one that's an automatic, like it just keeps moving through, then it will start playing the movie automatically. But if you're on one where you have to click the next button to get to it, then it won't play it until you.
Yeah, well, but in this case, when I do it manually, I go from one to another. As soon as it gets to that one, it'll play it. But then the other
Yeah.
one, I don't know if you've ever run into that. Is it,
I don't know about that actually. That's a good question. But I mean, I would just hit pause until I had finished talking and was ready for it to play. But that is kind of annoying. Okay, so the next thing that you can add, I've never done this, but you can add background music to your whole Prezi. But that, I guess what you would use that for is like, let's say if you were making like a photo, like almost like a slideshow or something, and you were moving through some nice photos, you might want to add, and what I believe it does is it just adds an MP3 that will play on repeat throughout the whole presentation. So you probably wouldn't want like an annoying song, you'd probably just want some sort of like elevator background music or something like that. But that is available. You'll notice that there's this faded out thing that you can't click on, and it says select path step to add voiceover. You actually, I think they put this here so that you know that it's actually available to you, but you can't do it here from this menu, and I'll show you how to do that later. What that is basically if you come to a slide, something will start playing, like an audio file will start playing, and I've used that many times before to sort of add voice direction to it. I would really recommend that if you were doing like a presentation where someone was just going to watch it online and you weren't going to be there. It's kind of a nice option.
So how do you add that?
I'll show that to you in just a minute.
Okay, great.
And then this is basically if you have any other sort of file that you want to add. If you wanted to add a PDF file, what that would do is it would pop up as each page would come up as a separate image. So if it was like a 40-page PDF, then you would have like 40 different images that would appear on your canvas, and you would move them around or delete them as you wanted to. The same thing happens with a PowerPoint. If you upload a PowerPoint, each slide will pop up as an image. You won't be able to manipulate anything on that slide, but it will be there. So if you have a PowerPoint that you wanted to turn into a Prezi, you could probably, import the PowerPoint and then add, some bells and whistles to it if you wanted to, but it's kind of hard to manipulate the things that you've already put into that PowerPoint. So things from my collection. What that is basically if you knew that, let's say I had an image up here, that sunset image. I'll go back to that sunset image. If I wanted to right click on this, there's a little option that says add to my collection. If I add that to my collection, it means that it just saved that image to my Prezi account. And now whatever Prezi I'm in, I can always go to insert from my collection, and the sunset is there. And you can add or delete things from your collection as you want to. Okay, so are there any questions about inserting from that menu? Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just show you how to do that adding of the voiceover, and what you need to be in is actually in edit path mode. This took me forever to figure out how to do this. You right click.
What did you right click on?
Hold on. Hold on. Usually you just right click. I'm sorry. Usually this works. All right. Well, it's not popping up for me, but usually I just right click on this thing and we'll have it in there.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
So go back to presentation. At the bottom, you can just pick how long in between.
This is the coolest stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is interesting. Anyway, you can add if you go into presentation mode, you can pick how long each of the slides will be on for by clicking on this menu. I'll have to go back to how to add this sound to each slide later. I'm sorry. It's usually the right click for me, but maybe something to do with computer. I'm not sure. Oops. So the last thing that we have for this is pretty much everything that you can add, we've added. When you go back into edit path mode, to finish it up, like make sure that your presentation is ready to go, you can change the order, like I said before, by clicking and dragging these like this and moving them around like this. You can also, if you wanted to add a new slide, you can, let's say I wanted it to be in between number 7 and number 8, I would just click on this add button and I would drag it to whatever one I want it to be in between that. And now that becomes number 8. So that's another way to do it. And if you always click on this top mode, if you need to get all the way back to sort of see your whole thing, that's sort of where you end up with it. It usually ends up looking a little bit like a spider's web. But it's good to look at it this way because you can see the entire path of your presentation and you can see how crazy it is and how sick you're going to make people. Or, and you can also make some really big changes up here by maybe moving 2 to up here. Okay, we want 4 over here like this. So that way, that kind of helps you to see the big picture. Last thing that I'm going to show you, there's a couple of things up here that are useful. Yes, Ruth?
Sorry, but why doesn't the video have a number?
Oh, because we haven't given it one yet.
Oh.
Let's give it one.
Thank you, terrific.
Thank you. If we're still in edit path, you can just click on it and it'll add it to the bottom.
Oh,
And then you can move it from there like this. It's probably the easiest way to go about it. These things this is kind of like your help button and also a little bit of your settings. If you want some more video tutorials, there's a menu up here that'll give you some ones that Prezi has created, which is kind of nice. there's some support and help buttons up here as well. The next one is a share menu, and if you wanted to have a friend to help you edit this Prezi, you could invite somebody to edit. That's how you do that through here. And then you would just email them. I think it usually pops in. All right, so you would just copy this link by pressing this button and then pasting it in an email, and that would invite them to edit it with you. The other thing that you can do is start an online presentation. This is kind of an advanced thing, but if you were like, for example, having a Skype meeting, and the person that you wanted to show the presentation to, you were on the phone with, or you were just in a different place, you control it, but they'll watch what you're doing on the computer, on their computer. So that's how you could do that. The other thing you can do is download it to a PDF, and then you could, like, if you just wanted to pass out hard copies, then you can print it out that way. And then download to Portable Prezi, that's really only if you wanted to download the application for your phone or iPad. But there is an iPad or iPhone application, and then you can download it and bring it with you and show it
Now, I found it helpful. I gave one, and I didn't know if they'd have, where I was going, if they'd have internet connection.
Yeah.
So when I was finished with it, I just in case moved it to that so that I could just show it from my laptop.
Exactly.
It was a PowerPoint.
Yeah, so if you wanted to bring it on your laptop too, that's one way to do it. And that is pretty much it. It automatically saves it as you go along. I find that it saves it every like few minutes, but if you click this button, it will save it right at that moment. And then to exit, you'll go to here, just to save it real quick. And then this will bring you back to your Prezi page. We haven't named this. We haven't named this Prezi yet. It's still entitled. And to name it, you just click down here. And you can give a description, and then you can do all sorts of things because people will come and look at your Prezi, and they'll add comments to it and things like that. So. And it'll also have the share options down here, presenting online, downloading it, saving a copy of it, sharing it with people like that. If you do want to, we have the option, since we have an upgraded version, to make it private. If you have the free version, I don't think you have that option. I think it's just automatically public, so just be aware of that. Yeah.
And then up at the top it says, and then you scroll, no, the very top.
Sorry.
It says your Prezi. So if you click on that, then
that brings you
back
back to the menu.
Then you can see which ones you want to work on. You click on it, and then you can edit.
Exactly. And I don't know if there's anyone here who's interested in being able to upload your Prezi to Blackboard, but I've created a Prezi on how to do that, and I'm going to put that on Blackboard, which is really confusing, and putting a Prezi on Blackboard about how to put a Prezi on Blackboard. But yes, it will be there, and it's fairly simple, but it's not intuitive. So once you know how to do it, it's okay, but you won't be able to just do it automatically. It's not like other pieces of media. Yes.
Are there any other features you know about that are different from like the free version that we have here? Besides like are all the features the same?
The middle version, you get to replace your Prezi logo with your own. You get support. And you get to make your Prezis private, and you get 500 megabytes of storage. The free version only gives you 100 megabytes of storage, and all of your Prezis are public. And then the Pro version, you get to download like the whole application onto your desktop. You get to make all your Prezis private. You get 2 gigs of storage, and you get to replace the Prezi logo, and you get support. So that's kind of how it goes. And I think for students, that Pro version is $5 a month. For everyone else, it's $13.25.
Do you want me to show them Prezis?
Yeah.
What a finished one looks like?
I won't show you the how to Prezi because that will be going over everything that we've done before. But let's see. Actually, I can show you this one. It's pretty neat because this is our shadow count training that we're doing for shadow count next year. And this is a good one, I think, to show because they had a PowerPoint presentation to show how to do the training before. And what I did was I just uploaded that PowerPoint, and you can see each one is on there. And the cool thing about this is a 3D background. And I've thrown in some photos in there, and I haven't finished this Prezi yet. I'm going to finish it this week, but I'm just going to go into edit mode so that I can pick where I go. But what that will do is it'll really create this really interesting 3D effect. I'm just going to click on this photo, which I've hidden inside the big photo, and you can kind of see how that was more 3D than the other one was.
That's great. Very nice.
So if I was just going to present this one to you guys, it would kind of look like this. As you can see, it's not finished yet, but you could just go through it very similar to a PowerPoint. You can do it as simply as a PowerPoint where you're just reading text on a slide. And then I've thrown in a couple of other slides in here, like the ones with the purple outline I've made myself. So these are more these are all editable parts of it. What I found makes these, for myself, I feel, this is just my opinion, that if I have a lot of text on something, and I feel like just throwing in an image or two makes it a little bit more appetizing to the viewer. And I was talking about snacks. I just Google imaged a cup of coffee and threw it up there, and then it makes the slide that much more dynamic. So you'll be surprised what kinds of images you can find on there. But yeah, that's basically it. And you can see how the 3D background works. It's moving separately from the front. Are there any questions?
That's terrific.
It really is.
I like the cup of coffee too.
Yeah. The cool thing is when I animate each of the slides, you can have each of these check off themselves. I can show you one.
Yeah, you haven't shown us animated yet.
That's right. Oh no, the sound.
So you can just show the first clip of one of the ones for the grant processes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is this a new program? Really?
But when I started using it, it didn't have as intuitive an interface.
Yeah.
It's really improved.
Improved.
But even then, it was easy to learn.
Yeah.
So I think what you were talking about before is you hit this play button versus just navigating through it by pressing this forward button. I could be wrong.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
It's that when it would come up, as soon as it moved to the slide that had the video, one of the videos automatically played. Then when you moved to the slide with the other video, you had to actually click on the little arrow.
Since Sally is super specific, maybe you can talk to her about it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just click this.
Welcome to the Prezi on Post-Grant Administration.
So I did end up putting
Brought
some
to you
on.
by the Department of Research and Scholarship at Silverman School of Social Work. Congratulations on your recent successful grant.
So you can see the fade in.
This Prezi will take you step by step through everything you need to know about getting started with a new grant.
You can see I
If
got
you are
this
already
with
familiar with
images.
this process and just need a review of something specific, please click on the link for the simple version of this Prezi, where you will be more free to navigate to what you want.
So you can see how that just popped up to bring it to that person.
First things first. This first section will take you through how to gain access to and use basic services that will help you with your grant. This will tell you how to submit a new grant award letter or a renewal. You must seek approval of the Hunter Institutional Review
I'm
Board.
just going to pause it for a second and just show you, for example, if you wanted to click on this link, I'm just going to click on it and it will pop up in the next thing automatically. So The only thing that I would have to complain about Prezi is that you can't hide the URL in a photo. So what I would really appreciate is if there was like a photo and you clicked on the photo and it would bring you to that link versus like having that kind of ugly URL there. But they haven't done that yet. I bet you they will pretty soon though. So yeah, you can just put the URL in as text and it will recognize it and then it will pop up as a button for during the presentation. And that's basically it. And I will try and figure out exactly how I got the sound in there. I'm just going to edit this one because it has some in there. Okay, you can see on this slide there's sound attached to it.
Voiceover.
Yeah. Okay, so for whatever reason it just wasn't working, but you just right click on that slide and they'll say add voiceover and then it'll come up on your computer. You just pick an MP3. And what I did, which was really useful, at first I was like borrowing microphones and like recording devices. And then I had this aha moment. I just used my phone, my iPhone. They have a voice recorder on your iPhone, and you can record it. It creates an MP3 file of that voice, and then you can just upload it to your computer, and then you have it. You don't need any sort of fancy equipment. You can just do it with your iPhone.
And you sorted that all by yourself?
I think so.
Very good.
And you're recording interviews.
I was recording interviews, and then I think I did it sort of like, it wasn't like oh, this is what I'm going to do. I think I just kind of stumbled upon it by accident. But yes, you can do it that way. Yeah.
It's really
Great.
terrific.
Hope you guys learned a lot, and I will be putting this up on the Blackboard page. And if you're not on the Blackboard page, you just give us your email.
Yeah, and we can email you links. So since you
Yeah.
came, we'll email you the
Am
links
I
to
on
the
the Blackboard page?
I don't think so.
Well, I am now, right?
We'll email them to you anyway.
Okay, thanks. That
Um,
was terrific.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Now can we have a sandwich?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, absolutely, please, yes. Nice interesting. You're welcome. So
Well,
there's
that's it. I don't